walked up and he said, "Sir, I have no silver or gold. What I do have is I have Jesus." And he told him to rise up and walk away. And the guy jumped up and he started walking away. So he's like, and he started getting excited. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna start preaching." He's like, "No, I can't." But he's like, "What I'm telling you guys today, though, is to rise up and charge at your dreams and charge next to God and do all this stuff." And I mean, I would sit there and I was listening to him, and whenever I'd go for practice or something, I wouldn't rise up to the challenge. I would just kind of be like, "Okay, let's go out there and I'm just gonna get through practice." And a lot of guys felt that way about it. And that was the speaker for that day, and practice was over. And we got back. We had lunch. I don't think we had a speaker, but we went to the First Baptist Church downtown Tyler, and Vince Carter spoke again. He was only there for 2 days, and he spoke about I can't remember, but he talked to us about. I'm sorry. Playing the game last night, I hit my head a few times with cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
He pretty much told us about. I'm pretty sure you just recovered the stuff you talked about last night about devoting ourselves and not finding anything better than being with Christ. And we had a night, and a second day wasn't really too big, but the third day was a big one. We didn't have a devotional that morning. We went straight to practice, and one of the other coaches talked, and he talked about percentages. I'm pretty sure Caleb had a sermon about whenever he had cancer, and not cancer, but he had leukemia, and he talked about leukemia, cancer, whatever. It's my first time. Be quiet. He talked about when he was not devoted to Christ when he was a kid. When he was growing up, 17 years old, he was living bad. He was drinking with a bad crowd, smoking, and all this other stuff. And he started getting sick. But when he was raised up as a kid, his parents said, "If you're sick, we're not taking you to the doctor. Like, you don't need to go to the doctor. You're gonna be fine," because it costs money. And so he started getting really sick. He turned yellow, and he was sick for a really long time. And finally, his roommate said, "You know what? No, you're gonna go to the doctor." And he found out he had cancer. He had stage 4 cancer, and and they were saying, "Yeah, at this point you need to start crossing, you need to have your life in order. You need to go to the bank, get stuff out of the bank, and start, writing your will and all that." And he was like, "Oh," he was shocked. He's like, "What am I supposed to do?" And he had never, when he was a kid, his parents didn't go to church. He was kind of on his own for the whole thing, and he just decided to pray about it. And God spoke to him, and he said, "Am I not bigger than anything in the world? I'm not bigger than than your enemies?" And he said, "All right." He's like, "Okay." And so he didn't worry about the cancer whatsoever after that. He was just like, "I know my God's bigger than this, bigger than the 10% chance of life." And they started him on chemo, and he started on chemo, and he said that was a pretty difficult process because he was like really, really sick, and they decided to start, and after chemo was done, they came up to him and said, "We're going to start the next stage, which is radiation. If we start this stage of radiation, you're not going to be able to have kids. But if you don't do it, you're not gonna live. You're gonna die if you don't get radiation." And so he gets the radiation, and not being able to have kids, he was just like, "I'm not worried about it," because he knew God was bigger than percentages. And he met his wife, and they got married, and he's talking to her. He met her through church, and he said, I had to get radiation, and they said I